Welcome back, Pokemon fans. Hartford, Connecticut Regional Pokemon Trading Card Game Championship. Kirk Dupes next to Bay, John Calchexis Kettler. We are on the verge of a top 8 here. I believe it's starting around 2:45. We've got some time, so what we're going to do is we're going to discuss a little bit what we've got going on in the top 8. We did a little straw poll in the Twitch chat, and the winner of that was Jonathan Croxton and Bryan Hunter, so that's where we're going to start. What decks do we have to display to our friends here in top 8?
We got a lot of variety in this top 8 right now. So one running theme you guys have probably seen in the expanded format over the past couple of months is a lot of changes in metagame. And so, of course, we've got this matchup right here between Jonathan and Bryan where we have Pika Rom against Stoutland, against Shocklock, the one and the only Infinite Paralysis combo deck. We, in addition to that, have Rayquaza GX against Hitmonchan. We have Garb Zoroark as well, the metagame choice du jour of a lot of the Zoroark players this tournament. And we have a Trevenant Mirror, I believe it's 7-2 with Jacob and Sam. So not that much Zoroark, but lots of options, lots of variety in the format. This is going to be the very last tournament of Expanded for this exact set combination. We are going to see a new set coming out really soon. Actually already came out, but not relevant and viable, not relevant and expanded yet. I'm sorry, not relevant and expanded yet because we aren't going to have an expanded regional for quite a while.
Yeah, you mentioned our stream match here, Shocklock versus Pika Rom. That was what was the top vote getter in the straw poll. So we're working with Chris Szymanski, which I believe is going to be the stream judge, and he's got us set up with a backup match just in case we've got something to pivot to, and we'll discuss that in a bit. But real quick, let's jump into the Trevmere. Let's just handle each matchup quick. Let's just do a quick hit thing about each one. Let's start with the Trevmere. What are we doing here? Whoever draws better. It seems like everybody's playing Espeon EX, which is kind of a haymaker in that matchup. If you can get two Silent Fears off and step in with be the one that step in with Espeon and do the first Miraculous Shine, it seems like that sets you so far ahead from your opponent that's how a good way to take a win. What are your thoughts, John?
Well, the first thing is just getting that item lock quicker, being able to get that out as fast as you can and doing whatever you can, hoping that you don't get locked out of the game due to the item lock. And in addition to that, just being able to follow up with your attackers as well. So it's one thing to have an item lock, but it's another thing to actually have Pokemon that can Silent Fear, Tree Slam, actually get something going. So it's, I mean, you may have item lock control, you may have a Trevenant out really fast, but if your opponent has some way to answer that, even if it's something to hit for damage like a Tapu Lele with Energy Drive, that can help the other player get back in the game. And so it's a little bit of a crapshoot, though, all things considered. So it could go one way, it could go the other. Could be relevant on the item lock, could be relevant on actually having a steady stream of attackers.
Well said. Let's bounce across the board. Jose Marrero, John Eng. That is Rayquaza GX versus Hitmonwob. When I was sitting next to Justin Beccari discussing to him, he said the matchup doesn't seem that bad. He, of course, was on Hitmonwob and speaking to the matchup against Rayquaza GX. Feels fairly confident in it. What direction can we see that matchup go?
Hope you start Wobbuffet. I think that makes a really, really clutch difference between the different ways, the different paths that matchup could go, because if you start with any other Pokemon, it's going to be a lot easier for Jose and his deck to blow up and get everything that needs to be set up. But another little subtle aspect of that matchup is that Jose doesn't need quite as many energy because it's a non-GX, non-EX deck, and so the Pokemon in there a little bit squishier.
No, that's a great point, and just to button up that conversation point, Wobbuffet shutting down not only Stormy Winds, which you're alluding to, which what allows Rayquaza to really go off along with Max Elixirs, might shut off some key things such as Zeraora GX, which makes pivoting to his attackers a little bit easier. Marshadow Let Loose is also in this deck, and Marshadow Let Loose not impacted. However, Tapu Koko Prism, Dance of the Ancients would be impacted there. So Wobbuffet certainly what John Eng would like to see in his opening hand to put down as his starter. Let's jump down to Isaiah Williams, Justin Kulas. That is birthday boy, or birthday weekend boy, I guess we can say. Zoro Garb, Justin Kulas playing Pika Rom. Pika Rom, the Pika Rom players we've been discussing, Justin himself said, feed me all the Zoroarks you can. I'll take that matchup all day long. What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah, and then Azul was telling me yesterday that even though he had a pretty good win-loss record against Pika Rom, with basically the same concept a really similar list to what Isaiah has. It really just comes down to those late game ends, at least according to him, and I'm inclined to agree with that. It comes down to the late game ends, being able to draw out of those and being able to hit the exact card combination you need. Trash-a-lanche is really relevant, being able to exploit all of the items being thrown into the discard pile to get that strong setup by Pikarom.
Yeah, Justin really wants to find the balance of expending items to really have that explosive start, but not overextending to allow Isaiah to crawl back in with some very impactful single prize Trash-a-lanche attacks, taking 3 prizes itself. And that brings us to our stream match selected by the Twitch viewers today. Bryan Hunter on Pikarom, Jonathan Croxton on Shocklock. I know you and I are both big fans of Shocklock just in general. We like that kind of lock-style deck, or kind of smother your opponent with from all different angles type deck. So talk to me a little bit how you see this matchup developing.
Well, when I look at not just this lock deck, but any lock deck, and I'm the opposing player, I'm thinking about, okay, what options do I have to be able to weasel my way out of that lock? And that comes down to what precisely are they locking out? So Jonathan's deck, the shock lock deck, comes down to 2 things. Status condition, i.e. the paralysis, and not being able to play supporters due to Stoutland and its Sentinel ability. So,
and of course, real quick, if I may say, when you say the paralysis, we're speaking to Raichu's Evo Shock.
Indeed.
Evo Shock.
Yeah, thanks for the clarification. So going down Bryan's list here, there really aren't a whole lot of ways to get out of that. I mean, I'm looking for something, say a switch, something that's maybe an item card that could get out of it, and I don't really see it. I don't really see. I mean, I'm doing my best to look for a way around it. I think maybe the one answer might just be charging out really quick and trying to keep the lock from ever getting into play.
Yeah, I think aggressively using, Bryan does play 2 copies of Guzma, aggressively using those Guzma to go after whichever piece doesn't have as many on board. And when I say that, I mean if there's only 1 Pikachu on board and 2 Lillipups, Guzma the Pikachu to keep them off of one of the 2 portions of that combo, whether it's the Sentinel ability or the Evo Shock ability. Other folks in Expanded have been playing things such as Switch, Escape Rope, so they can wait for that turn and go Escape Rope, Guzma into the Pokemon I need to knock out to break this lockup for a turn or 2, and then really take advantage of that opening. Bryan, unfortunately, doesn't have either of those cards, and of course, Guzma not going to be able to be played under the Sentinel ability.
Precisely, and so at that point, Bryan's just got a little bit to work with, and I'd like to just to expand on your earlier point a little bit about being able to knock out something. So even if you force your opponent into an awkward spot where they evolve once with a single Pikachu in play to paralyze you, that's still okay as long as they don't have the follow-up paralysis.
Exactly, and that's activated either by using AZ or De-Evolution Spray to effectively buy back the Raichu into your hand to be able to repeat the lock next turn. Who do you tip your cap to in this matchup? Who do you think it leans towards?
Croxton easily for multiple reasons. I mean, of course, I feel like the matchup is very much favored on his side, especially due to looking down at the specific options that Bryan has. On top of that, Jonathan has the wind in his back when it comes to this deck. He's been doing extremely well with it. He's basically put it back on the map after it's been gone for a while, with that memory energy combo being so much more efficient than the other iterations, the other versions of the deck. And so I think that this match is his to lose. I'm curious to see if he'd be able to carry it all the way to the finish line and finally give Shocklock a win.
Whomever the winner of this is going to face that Trev Mir. But I'm with you 100%. I think Jonathan is a heavy favorite, presumably being able to set up his lock. Hasn't been an issue for him. All in Daytona hasn't been an issue for him here in Hartford. So I'm going to tip my cap in Jonathan's direction, especially because we're working with perfect information here, and we know there's no little gimmicky cards that Bryan can use to break the lock and then start pressuring some aspect of the lock by taking some key knockouts.
And you brought up a point that I just thought was so good, which was the fact of perfect versus imperfect knowledge. We're sitting here with the deck list, and at this point in the tournament, they've been going on so long, they might have even seen each other's decks at different points, but they might not know the exact 60. And so Jonathan could play this a little more conservatively because of that. And I think if the right board state shows up, that tiny bit of conservative play, which would be the best way to go about it, might hurt him.
No, that's a great point. Our players are wrapping up, setting up here. I know they do have their headphones on, so we haven't been divulging too much information. Overall, top 8, we just did a quick overview. Who do you like?
I, if I just in terms of overall odds, I mean, going down the bracket, we have the top seeds versus the bottom seeds. So right now we've got, we do have Jonathan potentially playing Jonathan or Bryan. Can't assume anything here, but the winner of this playing gets to Trevenant Lock matchup, and I feel like for the right cards, the Trevenant. I'd say that Trevenant may be able to handle either of these decks depending on the precise cards that are included. So out of this big mess here between seeds 2, 3, 6, and 7, I think we'll see a Trevenant victorious on the opposite side of the bracket. I think that there were some convincing arguments made by the Hitmonchan players in terms of their ability to handle this matchup, so I think that John would probably emerge victorious. I think that between 4 and 5, Isaiah with his Zoro Garb might be able to pull it out, barely pull it out. I think that I see Zoro Garb coming from the left side of the bracket, Trev from the right, and Zoro Garb pulling it.
I agree with you. I think the final winner is going to be Trevenant. Shocklock beating Bryan Hunter. Whomever the Trevenant wins beating Shocklock in the finals. John Eng beating Rayquaza with Hitmonchan. One of the Fighting Week Pokemons between Isaiah and Justin's, they're going to make it through. John Eng takes them down. Hitmonchan, Hitmonwab in the finals versus Trev. And Trev, it's Trev's day. Silent Fear all the way to the finish line. I think the folks down at the table are ready for some action. There we go. We're getting a count out. 3, 2, 1,
and it looks
cut
like
screen. Let's do it.
Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look to see. And already have a great starter there for Jonathan with Lillipup being so essential, with its attack being copied by Memory Energy when it evolves up into Stoutland, getting those items back and getting the flow going, but that might actually be a liability with a fast start by Bryan if he's able to knock that out fast.
Yep, Ultra Ball is the first move here from Bryan, getting rid of an Electropower. Very confident in his high-octane attacks here. Electropower hitting the bin, also Lightning Energy, and I believe Zero Aura GX from Bryan is going to come into play here and use that Thunderclap Zone ability to help retreat.
Yeah, and I mean, that's definitely going to be helpful at first, but unfortunately for Bryan, this particular style of lock, not quite as helpful for that because he can't retreat when he's paralyzed.
Set up for 4, that is 3 Lightning Energy and Electro Power. At least we'll be able to use the Ultra Ball to get rid of one of the Lightning Energies. Maybe getting a Tapu Koko Prism here and using the Dance of the Ancients turn 1 and just get 2 more energy on board.
Right, and being able to get that energy on board fast is just so huge. And one thing I like to make a note about in terms of just explosive early starts here is a whole bunch of energy on a Pikachu, Zekrom, GX, get that Tag Bolt GX going off really fast, knock out a couple Pokemon, and being able to disrupt 2 parts of the lock simultaneously. So get rid of that supporter lock and get rid of that paralysis lock in the same instant.
Bryan hits 2 Guzma, couple Max Elixirs. Going to play Max Elixirs. However, a lot of Lightning Energy have already gone down, and that is a fail. Just a weird sequence of draw steps here after using that Ultra Ball to grab a Tapu Lele. I guess I had misinventoried his hand. I thought he might have had a draw supporter in there, but such was not the case. Max Elixir number 2 is going to fail. Bryan doesn't like to see that in a matchup where he's already pressured to be able to apply pressure to Jonathan. And just a 1 Lightning Energy on the board and Tapu Koko Prism getting shuffled back in. And his hand is Versus Seeker, couple Guzmas, couple Lightning.
And out of all those cards too, Jonathan, meanwhile, he's really happy to see just what unfolded. He's going to be able to stabilize this setup a bit more without quite as much worry that he's going to get some sort of bizarre 2 Pokemon knocked out scenario as we've seen before with Pikachu and Zekrom GX.
Jonathan using Ultra Ball to throw away an AZ and a Trainer's Mail. We see a Bridget shuffle to the front, really wants to establish a strong board state, making sure that Bryan, as I mentioned before, can't pick off a certain portion of his combination here, of the Shock Lock combination. And it seems like he's going to be ready to go after this. Another Lillipup, another Pikachu, just setting up that Ditto Prism can become
it's added insurance. You're right.
Is added insurance can become either And Jonathan, I did draw a Tropical Beach for the turn, so he's going to be able to draw 6 cards here and end his turn with a full grip of 7. Over to Bryan, Sycamore off the top. This is going to be a punishing Sycamore if he has to play it, because more Lightning Energy are going to go down, and he does. That's 2 Guzma and a Versus Seeker going down. And
with that Max Elixir, we've got and 2 Trainer's Mail, he's got a way to make this not so explosive start, come back, make a difference.
Thunder Mountain is a great card to get here.
Oh.
Will allow him to attack pretty cheap. I'm not even sure if he has enough Lightning Energy in the deck to really be able to leverage Max Elixirs and a full Blitz right now.
If he gets lucky off the Max Elixir, then definitely. But
1, 2, 3,
5.
And Flash Energy isn't going to do it.
11 energy. He runs 13 energy total, 11 lightning basic, 2 flash energy. That's about the optimal count to have for basic energy in order to be able to get hits off of Max Elixir. But just what you were talking about earlier, all those lightning basics in the discard pile early makes that flash energy punishing.
Love grabbing the Electro Power there. Just grab it, play it. I just want to get it out of the deck. It's not relevant, so just get it out of there, especially because once the lock is established, he wants his cards to be as impactful as possible. Marshadow Let Loose is step number 1. Jonathan Croxton does need a lot of resources to establish his lock. You know, now he's going to need Rare Candy, Stoutland, Raichu, and a way to devolve Raichu the following turn. That's already more cards than he's getting off this Let Loose.
Exactly. And a couple options here for Bryan before he plays anything, but yep, he just decides to go ahead.
1 lightning. There's 3 lightning left total. That's how many he's gone through this game already. He's already gone through 6 lightning energy, and the rest are all in his discard.
Gosh, and you know what? He decides to go all in with this one Pikachu Zekrom GX, full blitzing all the lightning to the active, threatening a couple knockouts next turn, saying, Jonathan, you have to go ahead and get the full setup now, even though I used a Let Loose on you. So do something now or you're out of it. So
Tropical Beach will be able to bounce that Thunder Mountain. Ultra Ball throwing in an N, and I believe that's Tate and Liza.
Yep, and we've got the fully set up combo here for Jonathan just about. He just needs that Sentinel Stoutland to go, but a Paralysis here. And until that Paralysis comes out, or until Stoutland and its Sentinel comes out, Guzma is still a way around this effect.
There's the Stoutland. Is there a rare candy in there?
There is the
indeed,
rare candy.
And that's the whole kit and caboodle. Does he have a way to pick up that Raichu? That's the next question.
Yeah, and does he have the memory energy coming up soon? I mean, he can afford not to draw into it right now, but he does need some sort of way to pick up Raichu in the next turn, or at least get a Paralysis next turn as well.
I mentioned before I thought he discarded a Tate and Eliza to the Ultra Ball. It was actually a Gladian. However, Ultra Ball going to get rid of Professor Sycamore and a Palpad. Targets down another Lillipup. Going to throw that down on the bench just in case some things happen here. And Jonathan's going to be able to Tropical Beach for 5 cards. And Paralysis is on the Pikarom. Eevee coming into the grip, not going to be a big deal. Flash Energy jumping onto the Pikarom, and he's going to Tropical Beach himself, go back up to 7.
And it's the full setup just about. We're 1 card off from having a
Just
fully matured board here.
And Jonathan just needs the memory.
And we got the Herdier, too, to be able to get back that item in case he needs it, even if he doesn't have the memory energy.
I believe it's Treasure Hunt is the name of that one. So no memory energy, but we're still going. Getting the other Herdier, too, will be able to evolve the Ditto if he needs to use that ability again. Trainer's Mail, look at the top 4 cards, grab a trainer from it. Jonathan elects to fail it, doesn't want any of the junk, might want to keep his hand unclever to be able to Tropical Beach for more cards and get the resource he's actually looking for as opposed to what he's not. Evo Spray going down, great sequencing there. That means the Raichu is back in his hand and doesn't have to worry about hitting a memory energy the following turn to make that happen.
And that beach for 1, so a little bit of a harder beach for Jonathan as opposed to the really flush 5-6 card beaches we've seen before, but he's not terribly concerned because he still has this perfect setup going.
Big Sycamore, he's just hungry for the memory energy. I think Jonathan knows once he hits memory energy, he is good to go. And is it in there?
I think I saw it flash before our eyes during the Trainer's Mail last turn. So
Computer Search is going to be, if he's got one in the deck, Computer Search is going to let him get there.
Yeah, we're getting there, folks. And so with that Computer Search, this Shock Lock is fully matured. He runs 4 copies, by the way, so no real reasonable risk of prizing all 4 of those copies. So we've got it, and I think we got a perfect Shock Lock, folks.
and Bryan just picks up his cards once the lock is established. Once the lock is established, Bryan knows the contents of his deck. He knows there's no way I can win this one. Jonathan off to a very quick 1-0 start here in top 8, and Twitch chat wanted to see Shot Clock, and it is a powerful deck, and it's doing its thing today. That's
right.
for sure. I love seeing Shot Clock operate.
I love it too, because it's neat to see all the little intricate details of the deck come together all at once, and it's also really neat to see the culmination of the whole history of the game pop up at once. But it's also I mean, there's so many things. I agree with you. I'm saying so many words and I'm thinking so many things, but I agree that Shot Clock is one of the coolest things to see, because it's the culmination of the whole expanded format, but it's a relatively balanced deck in some ways too, because there are lots of ways around it. It's just, it seems like this particular Pika ROM doesn't have any ways around it.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to it, and if you weren't packing anything for Shot Clock now, lesson learned, because it's coming for you. Jonathan, very experienced with the deck. As you saw, Jonathan's deck was incredibly thin when he computer searched for the memory energy, and the real fun thing for me watching Shot Clock is recycling just 2 cards back in their deck to keep things going. These players are getting set up. Bryan, does he have a basic? He does. So what does Bryan need to do while we jump down into the action to turn the tides into his favor for Game 2?
Same thing he was hoping to do in Game 1, just maybe not discard as many basic energy cards. More of an incidental thing. He couldn't have controlled that the way that it dealt out. So maybe hoping for a little bit more of that, some sort of explosive start this game as opposed to last game, and he's hoping for the exact same thing. I feel like based off of how few options he has, his next 2 games are pretty much mapped out.
Yeah, missing 3 max elixirs that game didn't serve him very well. Nest Ball going to be where Bryan starts his turn, throwing a Pika ROM onto the bench, Pikachu Zekrom GX onto the bench, and we'll see what Bryan can do from here. A much higher probability max elixir coming down here in Game 2.
Oh, yeah.
There it is. No time wasted by Bryan. He knows what's in his deck. He just did a search with Nest Ball. I'm not going to waste any time on the clock. Let's keep this thing cruising and bruising. Shuffle up real quick. Let's see where Bryan goes from here.
Yeah, and this is definitely a much better start as opposed to the last game, actually hitting the max elixir. Looks like he's eyeing that Sycamore, and he doesn't run the same risk of discarding a whole bunch of basic lightning.
So maybe the consideration there for Bryan is he did have Cassius, which would have been a clean way to throw the Shaman back in the deck, be able to step up with Pikachu Zekrom.
Oh, and he's got, okay, he just drew a computer search and a Thunder Mountain off of that Sycamore for 7. And with this Trainer's Mail, I think it's actually a lot more realistic for him to pull off the turn 2 Tag Bolt GX with the bonus effect to deal damage to the bench.
Well, it starts with getting just a few more energy on there. Ultra Ball throws away Flash Energy and a Colress. Marshadow Let Loose really wants to be disrupting Jonathan. Thunder Mountain going to come down. Want to get that Prism Stadium while you have access to it.
Yeah.
And now both players are shuffling up. They're going to draw 4. And Jonathan last turn, after the draw 4, still hit it all to get his setup going. However, a bit different doing it turn 1 versus turn 2.
Yeah, and I want to go ahead and emphasize how risky of a play it is to put this Thunder Mountain Prism Star down right now, because if that gets bumped by a Tropical Beach, then the game's over, effectively, in some ways. Well, maybe that's a little bit dramatic of a thing to say, but what I am saying, though, is that it is very dangerous for him to give up that stadium so soon, because it's so integral to his chances to be able to get that turn 2 Tag Bolt GX with the bonus.
Trainer's Mail grabs Computer Search. That's a good one to find off of your Let Loose to 4, Trainer's Mail into Computer Search. Computer Search going to hand, and there's 2 Pokemon in there. There's 3 Pokemon in there. Zero Aura, I think a Pika ROM, and a Shaman.
Oh, I don't think there's a Lillipup. It doesn't look like there's a whole lot. That's just a pass.
Talk about a much different setup here. Now, Bryan has the Computer Search and can do what he wants with it. Electropower and another Pika ROM going to go to the discard, and Bryan gets any card in his deck, and he grabs Guzma, going to go after the Lillipup right now. That's the only threat that Jonathan really has on his board. If he wants to attack with Lele, that's 2 memory energy that has to go down on it. No concern here from Bryan.
What a great play, by the way, being able to go for it. It seems like he might have been angling for that bigger, bolder play at first, but because Jonathan's hand was so bad, he can go ahead and just go for the safer play to get himself set up and go for that big, fat Tag Bolt GX later, assuming that, well, Jonathan's able to figure his way out of it.
So Tapu Lele off the top. If Bryan gets to the fully charged tag bolt, he'll be able to take 4 prizes. That'll still leave him with 1. However, that gives Jonathan the opportunity to still set up his lock. So I think Bryan needs to get a little less prize hungry here, and if he does go for the full-powered Tag Bolt GX, to go after one of the combo pieces.
Precisely. And so I think from Jonathan right now, I want to see him go for the tried and true setup regardless of how dangerous this Tag Bolt GX might be. I still want to see him get the core pieces of his paralysis lock going. So with only 1 Lillipup, I feel like it's pretty exposed unless he has some sort of outsitting in his hand.
Obviously, the Tapu Lele Wonder Tag Rescue Stretcher, and now he's fully set up, and there's no real way for Bryan to punch a hole in this one. So maybe your next step is, okay, I can't punch a hole in it, so let me take my 4 prizes.
Right.
Zeraora GX comes down. Thunderclap Zone ability. Anything with lightning energy can retreat for free. Lightning energy choice band Shaman for 6, the full amount. And when I say Shaman for 6, of course I mean that setup ability.
Yeah, and you know what? He drew a whole bunch of items off that Shaman for 6. Lots of stuff that he can burn and use however he chooses. The Electro Power might not be as relevant here because he's not reaching up to deal specific amounts of damage, but wouldn't hurt to just get out of his hand at some point.
Trainer's Mail produces Bryan Hunter, Professor Sycamore. Quick shuffle from Bryan here. And if I'm counting the energies correctly, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That is, in fact, a fully powered Tag Bolt GX because Thunder Mountain is still in play.
Yes, sir. Miraculously, it's still in play after a couple turns. Despite being the first stadium to go out on the board, his 1 copy of that staying strong against anything that Jonathan could be potentially playing against it because Jonathan just hasn't hit it yet.
Big Sycamore for Bryan says, all this stuff in my hand is not how I win this game. I do not care. I do not want it. 7 new cards coming. We see a Max Elixir, Tapu Koko, Prism Star. I think I saw a Lightning Energy, maybe an Electro Power.
Yeah.
Hopefully some amount of draw supporter. Nope, choice band. And Bryan's going to flip the GX, and I like this choice. Since he can't punch a hole in the combo, get as many prizes as possible. And that's a Teammates in Jonathan's hand.
That's right. That's full art Teammates, and it looks like
he
he'd been sitting on it.
He's got he can set up the combo here. That's a Raichu.
Yeah,
and I think a
rare
there.
We've got Evo Shock.
I don't know if that was a rare candy or a D-Evo spray that he chose.
I don't know either.
But Jonathan puts it down.
Oh, yeah.
Rare candy.
We are shocked and locked, and we even have.
Oh, and he has the memory energy.
Oh no!
What is happening?
and you know,
Bryan Hunter looks at it, just draws a card.
Oh, dude! You know what the brilliant thing here is that he was sitting on that teammate since turn 1, I think. So he had been planning it out this way. I remembered seeing the sparkle of the teammates.
And Bryan just packs it in.
Oh
Bryan
my
packs it
gosh!
Man, 75 minutes for top 8, 75 minutes for top 8, and we only used 17 minutes of it.
But, buddy, you know what? All I can tell you is I am so glad that we have the backup match.
Yep, Jonathan Croxton going to work here against Bryan Hunter. Bryan Hunter must not have seen shot clock throughout the day, even though the field was littered with them this weekend, and found his way into top 8. Great run for Bryan Hunter, but this might be Jonathan Croxton's weekend.
Yeah, after so many tournaments he's been playing this deck in, doing so well, putting it on the map effectively. Here he is in top 4, his second consecutive day 2, his second consecutive top 8 appearance in an expanded regional in a little less than a month.
Yeah, he certainly has a tough task ahead of him, though, because the Trev Mirror is going to come out, and that is a little volatile for that Shock deck. So we'll see how Jonathan Croxton navigates this as the tournament continues. We're going to take a quick pause, try and sort out a backup match, maybe do a winner's interview, but please hold tight with us. We'll be right back.
Hey trainers, and welcome back to the Regional Championship here in Hartford, Connecticut for the Pokemon Trading Card Game. I'm here with our stream match winner, Jonathan Croxton, and I just got to say, great job being able to do that 2 times in a row, two top 8 appearances.
3 in a row.
3 in a row, top 8.
Yeah.
I stand corrected. So tell me a little bit, okay, and this is something that I like to ask, but I especially want to ask it right now. How did you decide to eventually settle on Shocklock? Is it something that you, and not just for this tournament, but for the whole stretch of expanded tournaments you'd been playing in for the past couple months?
Right. So I think we talked about this in the other interview I did with you. I was playing a broken deck that got banned. And this was the second most broken.
So then you're like, okay, you know what? I got to go ahead and go with the most broken thing. Fantastic.
And I know I'm not actually too good at this game. I have to admit that. I haven't been playing in a long time, so I don't do everything perfectly. And I especially don't know everything about the metagame. So playing a deck where all of my matchups are very simple. I do the same thing every time. And I could just perfect this deck as long as I run into the right matchups. I'll hit top 8. So.
And I bet if you feel that way, you feel even more drawn to an oppressive lock deck like this, where it has the same thing going on, and you effectively have full control of the game. So regardless of whatever you may feel about your play style, however you may see it that way, you put yourself in a position to be able to win and do well over and over again. So tell me a bit about your thought process change from regional to regional. Did you touch anything at all? I mean, I think
Sure.
this is pretty. Yeah.
The first time I was playing a 4th Rare Candy and a 4th Stoutland. That makes the deck a little bit more consistent, but in ways I didn't really like. So I ended up cutting that for 2 Acro Bikes. Those were also fine. It helps you get the turn 1 Bridget and Tropical Beach. If you do both of those, you're going to win most of your games against good matchups.
Right.
And in this tournament, I switched Alolan Grimer to Ditto Prism Star, which is different. I don't know if it's better or worse. Because it goes to the loss zone and you can't stretch her for it, that's a problem in some matchups. But in general, it's ups and downs. I put in an Enhanced Hammer for the Mirror match, which I never played. That's a fun matchup, by the way. You Enhanced Hammer their energies. They can't play supporters to draw into more. You attach 3 energies and Wild Charge until they're benched.
So let me get this straight. Against the Mirror match, you're doing exactly what you want to do against everything else, which is have complete control over the game with that Enhanced Hammer.
Mm-hmm. And you don't Evo Shock them. You attack for 90.
Very nice.
So, yeah.
I think that's interesting to be able to win a game on prizes, possibly with a Shocklock deck.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
So I understand that due to the bracket and the way it's set up, you've made a particular decision related to that. You would be up against, it's my understanding you'd be up against either Sam Ertman with Trevenant, or you'd be up against Jacob with Trevenant. And I understand that due to the AP test and some schedule limitations, you're actually going to be dropping from the tournament.
Home.
Is that right?
Yep. My only out against Trevenant, I don't play Lysander. I play Countercatcher, which you can't play against them. So the only way I can possibly win is they start with Tapu Lele or Tapu Lele GX. Yeah. They have to draw pass for enough turns for me to evolve into Stoutland and then Evo Shock them. So they have to brick so hard, it's not worth staying. So I'm getting out.
Really? Yeah, not even for the extra money. Yeah, I guess the AP test, big deal. I mean, it's really
not really
important.
I don't care too much about it.
Really?
But
nice.
But my chance of winning is so minuscule. Why would I say?
So you're like, okay, yeah.
I also
a few extra points on AP test. All right.
I also have to drive 8 hours, so.
I think that's a pretty big incentive. But you know what? Regardless of how you see it, I gotta admit, you did a fantastic job. You're definitely one of the stars of this expanded season we've had for the past couple of months. So congratulations on your showing, and best of luck in future tournaments. Are you going to Madison?
I don't know yet. Going to Origins for sure.
Definitely going to Origins. Yep. NAIC?
Yes.
Fantastic.
I have 315 points in 4 tournaments, so let's do it.
All right. So got to find your Shocklock for NAIC.
Right. If it exists.
Hey, congrats, man.
Thank you.